Hello and welcome to this session of Dynamics 365 Business Central for the unfamiliar. My name is Andre Verster and I'll be taking you through some of the areas of Business Central, looking at previous versions of Business Central, which was called NAV, and looking at different roles, different pages, things in NAV that are different in Business Central. So we're going to just kind of explore those different areas. So let's kind of kick into it. So the first thing is, what is ERP? Okay, so many of us talk about ERP, or this word gets kind of thrown around, but do we actually know what ERP means or what it stands for? So what ERP actually is, it stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. Okay, so that is what ERP stands for, Enterprise Resource Planning. Now, the idea the idea of an ERP system is basically to unify business processes so we can increase our efficiencies within our business. Okay, so it's bringing through different processes, things that we would normally have disparate systems for, silos for, like, we have our finance team that's one side, we have our procurement team that's doing something else on another system. We maybe have manufacturing and they doing their own thing on another system. What we want to do with an ERP is bring everything nicely together in one central place and have everything, again, like I said, in one central place and people working together. And finance is happy because they can see all their numbers, and the warehouse and purchasing or procurement is all together because they can see everything that they need to see in one central system. Okay, so that's the idea behind an ERP. And this is what Business Central then allows us to do. So Business Central does have your project management, some operations, you've got your reporting, supply chain management. We've got all these different areas on there. Obviously your financials there too. So with Business Central, this again brings everything nicely together because it's part of the Office 365 platform. That means that we fully integrated into Microsoft 365 applications such as Outlook, Excel, Word, all these different applications inside the Office 365 platform. They are all kind of standard integration into Business Central. We also then have the Power Platform where we can do some reports, Power BI, Power Apps, we can use that. And then we've got our Azure wrapped around that too. So for all our environments and where we can host Business Central from there. Now, as I mentioned, Business Central does have all these different areas, financial management, we can do bank reconciliations, we can do fixed assets, we've got some sales for quoting, if we needed to do some contact management, project management, supply chain, all these different areas we can work with inside of Business Central. Okay, so again, bringing all these different systems back into one central place where everybody can work together. Now, rethinking Dynamics NAV as a modern app, and kind of what does this mean, right? So in previous versions of Business Central, which was called Microsoft Dynamics NAV or NAV as we know it, we did have our role center, which looked like this. We have different pages. We could access it from a web browser, but some of it was a little bit clunky and obviously it looks a little bit different. But now what we have is we have a nice new shining Business Central system, which looks like this. So the colors are a bit more teal and it looks far more modern than what the old system looked like. Okay, so again, we do have that available on our phone clients, and we can access that on mobile clients. If we're using those different areas, we can use Business Central on these apps. But it just kind of looks a little bit more modern, in today's kind of world. So if we were going to compare popular pages within NAV and compare that to Business Central, so there are a few of them that we can kind of compare. So just kind of having a look at some standard things, having a look at our role center, our list pages, and some card pages too. How do these differ in Business Central to what they look like in NAV? Okay, so we want to kind of compare these two and see what they look like. So firstly, let's have a look at our role center. Okay, now our role center is again the main thing that users see when they log into, when they're logged into NAV or when they're logging into Business Central. Okay, so currently your role center. So again, on the role center, you would have different things. So you would have all your little applications, different areas rather, that we can access in Nav. If we needed to create new documents, I've got my role center over here. I've got my trial balance and different graphs and things that we could see on our pages. And again, we have our departments menu and a menu structure here to the left hand side on our screen. Now, what does this look like in Business Central? So Business Central, again, looks a little bit more slicker. So we've got different options here to the top for, chart of accounts. So those different options that we had previously on Nav, again, those options are there. We can create new documents. Again, just things look a little bit more slicker, and how that look and feel is a bit more modern in Business Central. And there is, what we would normally have as your departments menu or a navigation pane here in Nav. So there is different areas to almost access exactly the same thing in Business Central too. But just looking at this, it's a bit more slicker and looks a little bit more tidier than what we had in Nav. So now if we have to look at some list pages, so what are the differences and how do list pages compare from Nav to Business Central? Now, again, kind of the first thing to note on this page is that we have our filter or our quick filter over here to the top right hand side that shows on screen, and we have our advanced filter where we can filter on some data that is displayed over here. Again, different tabs and areas to access to the top of the page, and then we just have our normal list view with all our data columns on the main center of our screen. So how does that look in Business Central? So again, looks a little bit different, as you can see. The way we view our data can change in Business Central. So currently I am looking at this in little tiles, or tall tiles, where we can see images. So if we were looking at any stock images, we can see actual kind of images and tiles for this data. Again, you can change that, so we can change the view of that. So if you wanted to see it as a list view, you can absolutely do that. But on this Business Central screen over here, we now have our search that's here to the top left. So that would previously in Nav, again, if I just go back to the previous screen over here, you'll see this is over here to the top right. Okay, but now on this screen, we've got here to the top left. Now, the nice feature about this in Business Central is that it's actually going to look across all the fields in Business Central. So when we search for that, it will just kind of look for data. Okay, so it's not specific to only one column, whereas in Nav, it was specific to one column. So the data that you entered there, that's only going to have a look at that in that specific column. So when we search in Business Central, it's a cross column, which makes it far easier to find data that we are looking for. Okay. What we also have is now our advanced filter that's here on the left-hand pane. So over here we have our left-hand pane where we can then add filters and add, search for more details if we wanted to. That is now here on the left-hand pane instead of having it over here at the top of the page. Okay. Again, we can access multiple different areas. Again, you'll see creating new data. There's different menu options over here to the top of the page. So again, it's just exactly the same thing that we have in Nav. It just looks a little bit different. Okay. You still have the same features in terms of saving specific views. So where we wanted to add, standard filters and save those views, you do still have that exact same functionality in Business Central too. Okay. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show you then is cards and documents. Okay, so how does this look like in Nav and compare that to Business Central? So over here we have a customer card. Okay, so now we've got the customer card open. We do have your fast tabs over here. We've got some fact boxes over here to the right hand side. So all this data is again kind of shown on screen, and we've got our different options here to the top of the page too. Now, how that looks like in Business Central, again, pretty much the same view. You still have your fast tabs that are available, different fact boxes to the right hand side. Again, just kind of looks a bit different. Okay, so the way your data is displayed on the card pages pretty much look the same. Okay, so it's just maybe you have some fields in different areas, but you still got your different fast tabs that are shown across the pages, so you can see that data is kind of still displayed in the same way that we had previously. So let's have a look at directions for getting around Business Central. Okay, so just how do we navigate around Business Central, and just to try to get a bit of a feel around Business Central. Okay, so we're just going to have a look then at how we can navigate around Business Central. So currently, so I think let's just have a look at, just a role center and kind of different role centers and different accesses to different places for people that have different roles. Okay, so the first thing is this kind of Business Central where I'm logged into. So again, the role center defines what users can see when they log into Business Central. So for example, I've got some chart of accounts over here, I've got some cash management, so different areas that I can access over here. But we might have someone else like Megan, so this is another profile for Megan, who is our accountant, again interested in anything related to finance. So we've got some cash management journals over here. But furthermore, on Megan's screen, we do have like a finance performance graph or a cash flow graph that Megan can see. Now they might want some embedded Power BI reports, and we can actually embed these Power BI reports on our Business Central Role Center too. So that can then be displayed on screen for Megan when they log into Business Central. And we might have someone else, Alex, who's part of our sales team. So Alex is again interested in anything around sales. So we've got some opportunities, some contact sales orders, again, graphs and charts that are related to what Alex is interested in. So they can then see their sales pipeline. So they want to see anything that's kind of in the presentation cycle. We can click onto that area and it will take us directly to the data that is represented in that specific area of that chart. So again, some opportunities over here. So Alex can see anything that is currently in progress. So that will show that chart over there to Alex. Okay. So again, different ways that we can just kind of see our data. But if we go back to just around navigating around Business Central. So again, as I mentioned, these little links are available for people to access different areas. So if I was going to go to customers, I can click onto that customers link and this will take me to my customers list from there. I could also, if I wanted to see a bit more of a menu structure, so maybe something that you are used to in NAV, a bit more of a menu structure, I can click on this option over here. That will take me to my current role and show me the different areas that I can access based off of my role. Now, if I wanted to see a full departments menu, I can go in and say explore more roles, and this will then show me all the different areas. So we've got our manufacturing, we've got administration areas, we've got service management. So again, here you can see it's a bit more of a departments menu that you might be used to having a look at that area in NAV. Okay, so that's a bit more of a departments menu. Now you still have your search functionality, so that is still available within Business Central. And again, something that I use most of the time, just because I find it far easier to search for things. And the reason for that is because, Business Central does do this physiologic search where it will kind of just have a look at anything that we type in the search box and try to find anything related to what we have typed in there. So again, I'm just looking for purchase orders, haven't typed in the full purchase order words, and it's already come up with things that I can access, or areas that I can access rather, that is related to the text that I have typed in from there. And again, if I wanted to navigate to that, so to my purchase orders, I can then just click on my purchase orders and I'll see my whole list from there. Okay. Now, the way we view our data, as I mentioned previously, we could also change the way we view our data. So if I just go into my items list, again, I can see this as different tiles. So currently these are just as standard tiles, but if I wanted to show this as tall tiles, those will again show me a bit more of our images. And if I wanted to see that as a list, I can then just change that to my list view over here, and that will just show me as a whole list view of all my data that I have. Okay, so again, different ways that we can explore and view our data in Business Central by just changing that up and using this little icon over here to change the way we view our data. Okay. Now, In terms of personalization, you have the same personalization features as you would have in NAV 2. So you can go in and personalize your screen. So there's a personalize option over here. And if I go into personalize, that would then change my screen over here. So you can see I have a little red pointer that follows me everywhere. And this allows me then to either hide columns or hide things I don't want to see. So that, that makes my experience far better within the view that I'm viewing. Okay. The other thing that we can do is if we wanted to add a field, we can also add that field too. So if I click on this, I'll be able to see all the fields that are available for me to add to my Business Central view over here. Okay, so if I wanted to add this particular field, I can just drag and drop that, and that will then be added to my field over there. So there's also standard integrations into Business Central, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video. So if we have a look first at just standard integration into Outlook and how that basically works. So Business Central is fully integrated into Outlook. So that means that it's connected to Outlook, so people don't have to jump between two different applications, and it basically allows users to, again, just use Outlook and connect to Business Central. So we don't have to jump between two different applications. Now over here I have an email just with an invoice, with some invoice details, or someone asking for a payment related to an invoice. And because the Business Central and Outlook are connected, we can automatically just click on this hyperlink that was created, and it will take us directly to that document. And that allows us to quickly reply from this email because we can already see that data within Outlook. The other thing that Business Central allows us to do is use this contact insights. And this contact insights gives us some detail that is related to this contact that we have. So it could be a customer or a vendor. In my case, I'm just looking at my trade research customer. And from there, we can again see some statistical data. So in terms of seeing what their balance is, any ongoing sales, any ongoing sales orders, shipments, any kind of detail that we want to see, we can again see this in this little contact insights from within Outlook over there. So again, just a nice way for users to use Outlook and connect to Business Central and reply from there. What we can do is we could also go in and create new documents. So we can go in and say, well, I want to create a new sales order. And what Business Central will do, it's actually going to read the context of this email. So because this email has some context over here about a 2 items, so this London swivel chair and the conference table that this customer wants to order, it will go in and suggest items to add to the sales order. And because it's found those items in Business Central, that's why it's going to suggest this. So we can go in and accept that suggestion, and that would then already go and create our sales order for us with those 2 items already specified on there and everything else that we need. So again, already for my trade research customer, I've got those line items already there. So all those details have been added on this order. Okay, so you can see everything has already been added. So all that's left for me to do is then go in and email that confirmation if I needed to. Okay. So nice way that these two applications are then connected. There is also integration into Teams. So Teams integration is also available where we can share links with our colleagues. We could also go in and have a look at specific details. So maybe over here I wanted to share some contact details. So I can search for a contact within Teams. So if I was looking for, let's say Helen, for example. So if we say Helen over here, I can click on Helen's little contact, and that would then create this little document view again for me that I can then send to Megan and then ask her to contact Helen for me from there. So a nice way again that we can, have these applications connected. Again, if I click onto these details, to this detail over here, it will actually open up a Business Central window within Teams. So again, having, just one central place where we're working, so in this case Teams, but it still connects to Business Central from there. Okay. The last thing in terms of integration is integration into Excel. Okay, so there is integration into Excel too. So on multiple different pages, we do have the ability to edit data in Excel. So over here in this little share option, we have the edit in Excel functionality. And what this allows us to do is actually edit this in this case, this payment journal in Excel. And we can then publish that data back into Business Central. So this is available on multiple different pages, such as your customers, your vendors, your items. And again, we can set restrictions on there. So if you want to stop users from, maybe just set specific users to have this edit in Excel functionality, in terms of permissions, we could still do that. Okay, so how this basically looks like, it just looks like this. So we've got this little payment journal over here with all these lines, and you do have your options where you can then refresh the data or publish that back into Business Central from there. So just in terms of standard integrations, it's a nice way to keep things simple and have these applications integrate back from the Office applications into Business Central too. So the last thing that I just want to show you is kind of just standard data entry. So what I want to do is just create a new sales order so we can see how that basically looks like, and how you can enter your data. Again, if you're used to NAV before, it's exactly the same thing, it just kind of looks different. So over here, I've got my sales order list. So these are all my sales orders. If I want to go in and create a new sales order, I can then just click on new. This would then open a new sales order page for me. So what I can then do is I can either type in my customer name, or if I want to go to my whole customer list, I can click on that and say, well, I want to create this for trade research. And we can then continue adding our details. So again, we've got everything that we need on our screen over here. If I wanted to add some items, we've got different types. So, we've still got our, GL accounts, some items, fixed asset. You do have this comment line that's available if you wanted to add some comments on there. So if I wanted to just go in and add my Paris guest chair, again, data, and the way we enter data is exactly the same. If I was going to look for conference table, if I can type properly, conference table over here. So again, either typing, either the number or the description of what I'm looking for, can enter the quantities of those ones. All this data can then be entered, and that sales order is then kind of created from there. So in terms of entering data and looking at data in different ways, Business Central is pretty much exactly the same as you have, well, it is the same as NAV. It just kind of looks different. Things might be in a little bit of different places, but overall, it's just kind of the look and feel that is different to what NAV is. So that concludes our session then, and if there is any other questions that we have related to what I've shown today, please feel free to contact us on the links that are available. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this video.